Hi there. This is the other half of your introduction to the language of energy and the meaning of symbols. Why do you need to know this? It's because you need to be able to read the world. And that's half of intuition right there, is reading the energy behind the symbols. So again, this entire exercise is a journey into the evolved self to learn, number one, your approach to the journey into consciousness. You need to know thyself. How are you going about this journey? That kind of thing. Number two, you want to learn how you will handle obstacles in the evolution of your consciousness. Everybody runs into obstacles. How are you going to handle them? Number three, how will you handle the emotional challenges? Because sometimes knowing is not that easy. You have to be mature. So you will also learn the structure of the lifestyle. This is number four, the structure of the lifestyle most suited to your evolved self. What kind of life would you live if you were totally free to set your life up to do whatever you want to do? That's your evolved self there. And then number five, what is your key gift? That gift is your starting point. That gift is something you have naturally. You can develop all sorts of gifts, but by gosh, you want to start with your natural gift if you can. So let's look at the meanings. I gave you a little instruction. The instruction was, imagine you're standing in the middle of a field. Okay? Look around. What do you see? What kind of field is it? So the field, standing in the middle of a field, symbolizes the environment you currently live and work within. Whatever is growing in the field symbolizes the state of your growth process. Okay, so the field is the environment you live and work in, and whatever's growing in the field symbolizes the state of your growth process. So if you said, for instance, well, it was just grass, tall grasses, short grasses, doesn't matter, grass. Grass indicates that there's very little growth happening. I.e., letting the grass grow under you. If you said it was a wheat field, wheat indicates that the career is possibly too consuming for much growth because you're too busy having to make money to pay bills and feed the family or the self or. So that's a wheat field. Wheat symbolizes your career and money. And it just says, you don't have a whole lot of time to be trying to grow yourself. If it was flowers, then the type of flower is important. For instance, wildflowers indicate that you're growing, but there's no organized effort to evolve. It's kind of a wild shoot from the hip kind of thing. If you said it was sunflowers, that indicates a hope for being in the spotlight or hoping to put yourself in the spotlight so you can focus on you. If you said daisies, daisies indicate no effort at all. Listen to the word daisies. You're trying to take it easy every day. Days ease, daisies. If you said it was just weeds, weeds indicate some effort, believe it or not, but they haven't been productive, possibly because of incorrect information or useless information or unrealistic, expectations, that kind of thing. But weeds are actually not bad. If you said the field was recently plowed or disked, it indicates that there's been a change. and there's a readiness for something new. So those are the most common answers that I get. Okay, next I said feet. Look down, what's on your feet? The feet symbolizes where you stand. The feet symbolize where you stand. And what is on your feet symbolizes your readiness to continue the journey into consciousness. So let's look at, there's a whole bunch of symbols for feet. Some people say they were wearing sandals. They had sandals on their feet. Sandals represent a very relaxed and unhurried approach to the development of consciousness. Let's do this the easy way, kind of thing. Tennis shoes. Some people say they had tennis shoes on. Tennis shoes are sports shoes, indicating that this is kind of a sport for you, more of an entertainment than a serious pursuit. And I just want to warn you, if you're in this class, you're going to see that it's pretty serious pursuit, okay? On the other hand, at the same time, sports are something that you play with. I don't think that it's bad to play with your consciousness. You learn. No matter what you're doing, you're going to learn. Okay. Some people say they were wearing running shoes. Running shoes indicate you're in a hurry. You're just in a hurry. Come on, I want to be enlightened yesterday, kind of thing. High heels. Some people actually say they had high heels on. Indicate some arrogance and some inappropriate expectations. High heels are not good for your feet. In fact, they're terrible for your feet. So if you're wearing high heels, usually it's because you want to look good, look a certain way. This isn't about how you look, okay? If you said, a lot of people say they have flip-flops on or thongs, both of them, flip-flops and thongs, symbolize flipping back and forth, uncertain of what to believe in, or having conflicting thoughts and feelings about what you just learned. So that's flip-flops or thongs, flipping back and forth. Boots. If you had boots on, boots are ready for heavy work. That's kind of good. If you said you had slippers on, slippers indicate a relaxed or tired of it all kind of attitude. Maybe you've been trying to evolve your consciousness or learn how to be intuitive or psychic for forever. Nothing has happened. And you kind of have this attitude of, I don't know. That's slippers. Loafers. Loafers symbolize no effort at all. Maybe you're taking the class because your husband or your wife talked you into it, but you haven't really thought you would be doing anything serious. That's loafers. Some people will say, especially women, will say they had flats on as opposed to heels, high heels. Flats say that you have been doing something that hasn't resulted in any real difference. It's just kind of been flat. Garden shoes symbolize an active effort to grow yourself and develop greater consciousness. Garden shoes, gardening, active effort to grow yourself. Clogs. Clogs indicate that you have a lot of root work that has to be done first to deal with old ideas, old beliefs, etc. Clogs in. Okay. Some people say they have Crocs on, which is another kind of shoe. This symbolizes many inner conflicts about the validity of various New Age concepts. So Crocs, they're very comfortable shoes, but they're full of holes. They're very flexible, but they symbolize a lot of inner conflicts. You know, oh, that's a Croc of you know what. Okay. Some people say they were wearing some sort of orthopedic shoe. So that symbolizes the belief that you need support Orthopedic shoes are for support. You need support and cooperation from others in your efforts. And if you continue on in these classes, you will learn to be your own support. You will learn to stand on your own. So that's orthopedic shoes. Some people just say they were wearing dress shoes. Dress shoes indicate that you may already have many skills of consciousness waiting to be used. You just have to uncover them. That's dress shoes. Bare feet. A lot of people say, well, I had bare feet. That represents a complete beginner, a feeling of vulnerability, and a lack of preparedness. You can't go very far in bare feet. Your feet get really sore really quick. So that's bare feet. Some people say they had fairy shoes or elf shoes on. That indicates an existing connection to the world of Mother Nature. And that's a good starting point. Fairy shoes or elf shoes indicate an existing connection to Mother Nature. And then some people will say they had dance shoes on, and they'll even go so far as to say tap shoes or ballet shoes. That represents a scripted life that may have to be dealt with. Somebody who's never really had full say over their own life. Dance shoes, tap or ballet shoes, all three of those, a scripted life. And then the last one I've heard is hobbit shoes. Hobbit shoes symbolize an existing participation in a hidden dimension. So that's going to be brought forward. If you're wearing hobbit shoes, you're already in or have your feet in another dimension, and you're just not aware of it. That will come out as you go through these classes. So next we have the fence. The fence, what do you suppose the fence means? What does it symbolize? Simple: obstacles. Fences are obstacles. They either keep people in or out. So if you said that the fence that when you came to it it was wire fencing, that symbolizes somebody with a lot of questions, so many questions that they get distracted from the actual challenge of the moment. Wire fencing. Listen to the word wire fencing. Why? Somebody who's always wanting further explanations and proof, et cetera, and all those questions distract. They just take your attention away from what is it I'm focusing on, kind of thing. So wire fencing also symbolizes somebody who really likes or would appreciate a more scientific approach that answers questions about the mechanisms of consciousness. Why, how, and why? How does that work? Why does that work? That kind of thing. So that's wire fencing. And actually, that is the scientific approach. You'll get that in this class. Okay, you can't go very far if you don't understand the science. This is a whole new dimension of science that these classes are based on. Okay, if you said it was a picket fence, it symbolizes picking at the obstacle instead of figuring out how to deal with it. Picket fence. A lot of people will say, oh, it's a split rail fence, like those kind you would see in an Abe Lincoln kind of cabin thing. Split rail fencing indicates that you are divided in your approach to development. Perhaps one part of you criticizing another part of you, and then railing against or feeling bad about that self-criticism. So split rail, you're split. You're divided in your approach. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't do very well. I failed at that. Never mind. There's a million exercises and a million pathways to get to an expanded consciousness. The next one is not just wire, but it's barbed wire. Barbed wire indicates a fear of what others might think or say if you become different, if you change. Barbed wire, fear of what others will think or say. Wooden fencing indicates a lot of procrastination. You would develop if you could. And there's also a deep stiffness with the whole subject. You'll get out of that stiffness in these classes. You definitely will become much more flexible. So wooden fencing indicates, yeah, I would if I could. Some people will say it was a chain link fence, and that indicates feeling chained to cultural programming and powerless to get out of that box. You're chained and linked to what is known as the Great Satan. The Great Satan is the programming, the original programming that you get from your culture, regardless of the culture. They're all the same. They get you away from yourself, and you start following those rules. That's it. That's it. Done. You're stuck. You're in the box. So that's chain link fence. Here's another one I hear fairly often. It's woven fencing or lattice fencing or patio fencing. They all symbolize an effort to weave new information into existing beliefs, which doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to set down or let go of the existing beliefs and information that you have. And then later you can go back and pick up what seems useful and appropriate. So that's woven lattice or patio fencing, an effort to weave new information into existing beliefs so that you don't have to disturb your existing beliefs. Okay. Next, we have steel fencing. Just like it sounds, steel symbolizes trying to handle obstacles by either taking advantage of others or letting them take advantage of you. It's not win-win. So the obstacle is, how do you set up a win-win situation? How do you expand your consciousness and you win and so does your family or your corporation or people you work with? Here's another one I've heard fairly often, vinyl fencing. So vinyl fencing is really like that winter fencing, snow fencing. So vinyl fencing symbolizes going along with problems and obstacles because you feel like you're too tired or you're lazy or you lack power. You don't believe in your own power. That's vinyl fencing, going along with whatever. The problem comes up, I'll just go along with it. Watch out there. Garden fencing is the next one. Garden fencing symbolizes being caught in small plots and plans that are the result of too small and too narrow thinking by those around you. Garden fencing, caught in small plots and plans that are the result of the thinking of those around you, people with narrow minds. Electric fencing, electric fence, symbolizes that you are far ahead of many obstacles and problematic situations. Electric fence, far ahead of many obstacles and problematic situations. The problem is if you get too far ahead, people come after you. They don't like people who get too far ahead. Next, we have rock wall. It was a rock wall or a fence made out of rock. And that either a rock wall or a rock fence represents a solid core self that is ready to deal with all obstacles. So the inner rock is already there. It's wonderful. Rock wall or fence, a solid core self. Next, we have a privacy fence. And that privacy fence represents a tendency to hide your true self and avoid dealing with as much as possible. You just watching, always skirting the edges, never wanting to get involved kind of thing. That's privacy fence. Second to the last is construction fencing. That's wonderful. It symbolizes a willing to come up with new and novel solutions to obstacles. It's being creative. It's construct a new idea, construct a new path, construct a new answer. That's construction fencing. And the last one is timber fencing, and that symbolizes a willingness to change when an obstacle comes up. That is also very good. Timber fencing. In other words, timber fencing is you just let go of all your other beliefs and everything. As long as you're sticking to your ethics and good values, that's fine. So next, how you get over the fence indicates how you typically handle obstacles in your life. And climbing, if you said, I climbed over the fence, climbing means that you hope to rise above the obstacle in both attitude and behavior. Let me climb up over this thing. Okay. Crawling. Lots of people say they crawl under it. Crawling or crawling under means you're going to feel guilty, but you'll keep going. Some people go through the fence. They squeeze through an opening in the fence. Going through the fence means you struggle with a lot of small details. Okay? Let go of the small details. They're all small. The next is just finding yourself on the other side. Just finding yourself on the other side means you will not have difficulty, but this sometimes means you will doubt yourself because it came so naturally. It'll be a little bit before you're able to integrate that. If you floated over, that indicates trying to stay above the problems and obstacles, not getting involved again. Floated over, trying to stay above problems. There's also another meaning for floating over. That means, I'm just going to make this easy. So handling obstacles, you take the easy way. A lot of times that's the common sense way. Sometimes not. The easy way is not always the easy way. And the last one is found a gate. That means working at obstacles until you can get to resolution. In other words, a gate opens something in you. You take that, you go through the gate. Working at obstacles until you get to resolution. That's found a gate. Okay, next. Next in our journey was water. And water is the universal symbol of emotions. And so far, I have to say that what we have here, the field, the feet, the fence, the water, so far they're all universal symbols. In other words, they mean the same thing in every culture. Okay, everybody, all humans at the symbolic level understand the energy of these symbols to be doing something specific. And then we put our own little twist on that by the kind of descriptor we put on that symbol, such as a chain link fence or boots for heavy work, that kind of thing. So water is the universal symbol of emotions. And if the water that you came to was a creek or a stream, it indicates a nice flow of emotions. That's nice flow of emotions. If you said it was a river, That's a lot of emotion flowing at one time. Typically, that's going to carry you away with it. Okay. River is a lot of emotion flowing. Next, we have a puddle. A puddle symbolizes not allowing yourself to feel very much, very limited in your emotional expression. A mud puddle is a little different. Mud puddle, if you added the word mud to it, it symbolizes some seriously unclear emotions. I don't know why I feel like that. I don't know why he does that. I don't understand, et cetera, et cetera. So, or not even being able to say that much, just not even understanding your own emotions or why you say or do what you do. So that's a mud puddle. A pond means emotions that run deep, but they're not moving or changing. Ponds are pretty static. Okay, now sometimes there'll be a spring in that pond, and people will say a spring-fed pond. So that means things are fairly stable, but there's a little bit of emotional freshness that comes in. Okay, a lake. Lake means emotions that run even deeper than a pond, and generally aren't moving or changing except with a change in external circumstances. Let me read that again. A lake, much bigger and potentially much deeper than a pond, and certainly much deeper and bigger than a mud puddle. A lake means emotions that run even deeper and generally aren't moving or changing except with a change in external circumstances. So that means you're pretty steady, but whatever's happening around you is going to overwhelm. It's going to take you with it. Some people will say they saw a sea. The Red Sea. Red is passion as well as anger, as well as blood. So a sea, SEA, symbolizes an ability to see your way through emotions of your own and even others. That's a sea. Seeing your way through the emotions of your own and even others. That's quite a gift. An ocean. An ocean is overwhelming emotions. Overwhelming. Too many things not dealt with, typically from birth forward. So might be a little bit of work involved there. Some people will say it was a mill pond, not just a pond, but a mill pond. A mill pond represents a lot of mental obsessing over the emotions that you have as well as the emotions others have. That's a mill pond, just churning, obsessing over the emotions of self and others. So then I said, how did you get to the other side of the water? And that symbolizes how you handle your feelings. Getting to the other side of your water is getting to the other side of your emotions. So jumping over, if you said, well, I jumped over, it was just a little thing. Jumping over indicates that you tend to skip dealing with feelings and emotions. If you said, and I hear this a lot, I found a boat. Finding a boat and paddling across indicates a willingness to find tools and support when you need to deal with emotions. A boat is a means of support as you cross the water. If you said, I swam, swimming means you get right down into the grip of those emotions and let them roll right over you. That's swimming, okay? Getting right into it. Some people go around the water. They can see that they can walk around it, like a pond or a puddle. So going around the water indicates that you tend to avoid emotions altogether and sometimes hide them. Okay. So if you said you found yourself or you willed yourself, I just willed myself to be on the other side, that indicates a tendency to see how others feel before you see how you feel. Okay? You find yourself on the other side. You're feeling what the other person's feeling. Do you know what you feel? That's really critical. So that's finding yourself or willing yourself on the other side of the water. Some people find a bridge or build a bridge or say there was a bridge. So anytime there's a bridge involved, that means you tend to work on issues until you find a way to have your emotions and allow others to have theirs without friction. Beautiful. That's a bridge. Working on issues until you find a way to have your emotions and allow others to have theirs without any friction. No resentment, no carrying a grudge, nothing like that. Some people walk over a log. They'll find a log across the creek, and that walking over a log indicates a tendency to ignore or belittle those who don't feel the way you do. And this is how you protect yourself from criticism and the emotions of others. Okay? Just take it as information about yourself. The goal is to know thyself. Don't deny what you wrote is what you wrote. It's an insight into yourself. So let me say that again. Walking over a log indicates a tendency to ignore or belittle those who don't feel the way you do. And that's how you protect yourself from criticism or any kind of emotion you're not comfortable with. And then the last one, some people will say there were some stones or rocks sticking out of the water, and so they jump across the stones or walk across the stones sticking out of the water. That indicates emotional stubbornness and sometimes a tendency to be a drama queen, sometimes a stony attitude toward feeling, and sometimes indicates using the stubbornness of others to expand yourself and your emotional acceptance. So that's a complex one. Let me read that again. Jumping across stones or walking over, walking to the other side of the creek by walking on stones that are sticking out of the water can indicate emotional stubbornness. Just you're walking on the emotions of others, or just that you're like a rock. Sometimes it indicates you have a tendency to be a drama queen or a drama king. Sometimes it indicates a stony attitude toward feeling. I'm not going to let you know how I feel. I'm not going to let you see how much you upset me. That kind of thing. And sometimes it indicates using the stubbornness of others to expand yourself and your emotional acceptance. So this is the kind of symbol in which you have to assess yourself. And that is very good practice. Are you emotionally stubborn? Are you a drama queen? Do you have a stony attitude toward feelings, yours and others? And do you use those attitudes of others to expand yourself? So you decide. Okay, that's the last one in getting to the other side of the water. So the structure in the clearing. The structure in the clearing symbolizes the structure of the lifestyle you unconsciously believe you must adopt in order to reach a more expansive state of consciousness. That structure symbolizes, that would be my ideal, or your belief that that's your ideal. And quite often it's quite accurate. I will say that. So these are some of the things that I hear regularly. Most often I saw a house. Now, a house depends on whether or not there's a description of the house. But if it's an ordinary house, it's an ordinary house. You don't need any special structure of your lifestyle. You'll get by with right where you're at. But some people will attach a descriptor to the house. They'll say it's a ranch house. So that symbolizes just normal life, all on the level. You're straightforward, all on the level. Some people have said it was a salt box style house, salt box house. That indicates that your current lifestyle is good, but you need much more input. You can't grow yourself if you don't have enough input. So that's a salt box. Your current lifestyle is good, but it needs much more input. Some people say it was a Victorian house, Victorian style house. That indicates that you'll be successful regardless of lifestyle. You're adaptable, you're flexible, you're intent on growing, expanding, etc. You'll be successful. Some people say it was a Greek style house or Greek revival. That symbolizes your lifestyle will experience an overhaul that renews you. That's good. Greek or Greek revival, your lifestyle will experience an overhaul, and that overhaul will renew you. Cape Cod is the next one. Your life will undergo a major change that makes it easier for you to advance your consciousness. Cape Cod, your life will undergo a major change that makes it easier for you to advance your consciousness. And the last house descriptor is two-story house or three-story house. That indicates stages of your life that will be massively different as you change. The first story is your youth. The second story might be your teen years. The third story might be your adult years. The fourth story might be, after you got a divorce or after your husband or your wife died or you woke up to something new. So then I see there are a whole bunch of other types of structures. Next, we have cottage or cabin. That just plain old indicates a simpler life. You would love to have a simpler life. A barn. Barn symbolizes a deep connection to animals and nature becoming central in your life. Barn, reconnect to nature. Sphere. If you saw a sphere in the center of the clearing, it indicates a life in which you feel you have more control over your own life and the way you spend time. That's a sphere. You really feel that you need to have more control. And you do. You are the master of your own life. A castle. A castle. A lot of people see castles. Castles indicate a belief that you will be special in some way. And you will be. You will be special to yourself. You don't need to be special to the world. You just need to be special to you. That's a castle. Okay, next is a futuristic structure or a rocket ship. Indicates a belief that you have to adopt a far out lifestyle. You really don't, but that would be interesting. That's a futuristic structure or a rocket ship. You need a far out lifestyle in order to continue growing yourself. The next is a tent. A tent indicates concerns that you won't be able to maintain the consciousness, or that it will bring about a change in your life that you don't know if you can handle or maintain. Sometimes we know intuitively that our spouse or our career is going to not go forward with our expansion of consciousness. And that frightens people. That's one of those fears, the four enemies. So if you saw a tent, that is one of your concerns. Next, we have a shed. A shed symbolizes the belief that you have to give up the life you have now for something else. Be careful with that. I know lots of people who jump out of the frying pan into the fire. They're shedding their old life. And they end up going back. Next, we have an apartment. The apartment symbolizes a life spent away from family and friends with only occasional contact. That is a tough one. A lot of people who came from very religious backgrounds have difficulty with that. They have to get away from family, far enough away to be able to expand their consciousness and then stabilize that, and then learn how to stand on their own, and then learn how do I integrate gracefully back into the family without giving up who you have become. Tough one. Some people will say it was like a hobbit house, partly underground, and that points to a life that includes a lot of contact with nature spirits, elves, divas, and people from other dimensions, trans-dimensional people. That's a hobbit house. A tower represents a life alone, not touched by people and problems and issues of the present day. That you can go some distance in a tower, but then at some point, the tower will probably come down and you'll have to integrate back in. The world needs enlightened people, not people who go off to live on the mountain and in a cave. And the last one is a mansion. A mansion symbolizes the hope that developing consciousness will allow you to live a lavish lifestyle. It can also indicate a life without a spouse or partner. Listen to the word man, shun. Shunning the man, the husband, and it also works the other way as well, spouse. So humanity being shunned as well. You can't deal with people. The more you expand your consciousness, the better you're going to deal with people. Hands down. Okay, so now we're getting to, there's still a couple more. The door handle, the person across the room, the gift, and then making our way back is easy. So the door handle is the next one. The door handle symbolizes how you will handle the entry into this new consciousness. You're opening the door to a new kind of consciousness. How are you going to handle that? That's what that door handle symbolizes. So if you said that it was a brass handle, brass door handle, or brass knob, that indicates that you're going to be pretty brassy, pretty sassy, and maybe a little bit opinionated. Okay? Don't worry about being opinionated. The world will smooth you out. They'll take off your rough edges. Trust me. If you said it was a latch, some sort of latch, old-fashioned barn door latch or whatever, a latch indicates that you will typically latch onto one idea, work it to death, and then take up another, work that to death, and repeat as you go. It's difficult to get your mind around all of the skills and abilities at once. Okay, so latching on to one idea, working it to death And then moving on finally. A string or a rope, you just pull on a string or a rope and, something opens up. That indicates that you will work to string ideas and abilities together until you understand deeply. Okay? A string or a rope indicates working to string ideas and abilities together until you understand deeply. Next, we have a barn door type handle. It's like this wooden thing that goes up, it kind of fits in, pick it up to open the door. That means typically you're going to be dealing with some pretty basic things, basic things. So next we have a lever. Some people will say the door handle was like a lever. You just push down on it or lift up on it. And that symbolizes leveraging your learning, usually by integrating one concept across many domains, which is very good. And people who are going to teach often do that. So if you've been interested in teaching, consulting, working with others, you may have had a lever symbolizing your entry into consciousness. Next, we have a slider. Some people will say the door was a slider. It didn't really have a door handle. You just pull on it, it opens. A slider symbolizes that you are into something before you realize what is happening or what it means. So consciousness is, you're just going to slide right in and then be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that it would involve this at this depth. And the last one, a deadbolt. If somebody had to open a deadbolt to get in the door, that indicates that you may refuse to deal with some aspects of consciousness. Don't be afraid. It all makes sense and it all works beautifully. So deadbolt, you may refuse to deal with some aspects of consciousness. Next, we have, you walk down the hallway and into this big room full of light, sunlight, big windows, and there's a person standing across the room. That person standing across the room symbolizes the most important influence in your development. So common reports indicate that the person is a grandmother or a grandfather or a great-grandmother or a great-grandfather. But whether it was grandmother, grandfather, or great-grandmother and great-grandfather, the task you have is to review what you learned from your grandparents on both sides, living or dead. If they were dead before you were born, ask what kind of person they were. What were they like? What kind of work did they do? How did they treat their children? What did they, what was their shortcoming? How did they die, etc. So that is a huge influence in your development. Some people will say there was no person. There was just a bunch of light or an energy field. That symbolizes that your own energy will change and develop you. Okay? That indicates that that bunch of light or an energy field typically means that you have accessed the inner teacher. That is fabulous. Next, we have Jesus. Jesus symbolizes a teacher healer or a life of service. So that's a huge influence in someone's development. And we're not talking about Jesus in terms of religion. The Jesus within is the self that wakes up, that grows up, that expands and matures. That the term Jesus is a title. It means teacher, healer. So in the ancient days, before the the Vatican, the Roman Church decided to turn Jesus into a person, take all these old stories and build it into the story of a human being who had this dramatic life and did all these amazing things. That before they started that story about a guy named Jesus, there was this concept, and every town had a Jesus. It was the doctor, it was the teacher, it was the healer, it was one of the leaders. So that's what that means. Mary, a lot of people will say Mary. It was mother, the Virgin Mother of Mary. That symbolizes nurturing and guiding others. And again, a life of service, being of service to others. With either Jesus or Mary, your work will end up changing others, which then changes you. There are 3 doorways into the expansion of consciousness. One is Kundalini. I might have mentioned this earlier. Another is Mother Nature. Nature is the second door. And the third is a life of service, because that service teaches you and it changes you. Okay? You learn to love. Next, we have your mother or your father. So that means that you need to review what you learned from your parents or figure out what strength or gift they were trying to develop in you, or that you were trying to develop in you by choosing that parent. So doesn't matter whether the parent was good, bad, or indifferent. There's a gift in there. Sometimes somebody will say it was their husband or their wife or their partner. So your task then is to review your relationship with your spouse or partner. What are they forcing you to face, to learn, to become? Spouses they know all your buttons and they push them. What can you do to respond differently? You can't respond differently until you become different. And you have to figure out why that trigger, why that button causes such a reaction in you. Okay? Husbands are wonderful teachers. Oh my gosh. When I was married, I learned so much, and I treasure every bit of that. And he does too, even though we're no longer together. We still talk regularly. So if next we have a child, if the child is yourself, it symbolizes the dropping of much of the programming that you've had. Programming, from society, programming that you have experienced, and then allowing the re-emergence of the child from within. So that's the child. Child symbolizes yourself, and it symbolizes dropping a lot of that programming. Next, we have a friend, some friend. Review your relationship with that friend to see what you are learning or experiencing in that relationship. Is it somebody that is listening to you for the first time in your life? Is it somebody who got mad at you for something and you're having to learn how to patch things up? What are you learning? Is it a perspective? Is it a standard of values, a group of ethics? What is it? Sometimes it's an unknown male or female standing across the room. If it's an unknown male or female, this is the hidden you. The hidden you that you are slowly becoming. Okay? And you could also say it's the future you. The hidden you. It's hidden by the future because we don't think we can see the future, which we can. So, okay, a couple more here. If it was a Native American a Black figure, African figure, or a Mexican figure, or any figure from another culture, that represents the shadow side of you that you have abandoned. And you're going to have to reintegrate that self. That foreign person is something that you have abandoned because you didn't think you could make a living, with that person, or they got laughed at too much, the laughter was to teach you to develop a sense of humor, and you failed, so you got rid of part of yourself, or. So that's anytime it's like a Native American, a Black man or woman, somebody from over the border, those are people, those are you. That's you. And the last one, an angel, a specific saint, or another holy figure. Get a book on that saint or that figure or that angel, and read about their life. Study their life to find relevant information about yourself. Okay. And then finally, we have the gift. Okay. So I said, ask that person for a gift. And then, reach out and take the gift. So the gift symbolizes a key ability that will be at the core of your evolved self. That's the gift. A key ability that will be at the core of your evolved self. So if your gift was a box wrapped and tied with a ribbon, it's a gift that you have not discovered yet or not opened. It's still in the box. Open it up. Okay. If it was a ring, rings symbolize power, the power of consciousness. If it was a stone or a polished stone, that indicates the health of the body, a healthy environment, and an already existing understanding of how to heal both yourself and others. A stone is a symbol, it's almost the universal symbol of the human body, of a physical body. So whether it's a stone, or some people will say it was a polished stone, that indicates the health of the body, okay? Or of your environment. And you have a gift for healing. A necklace. A necklace is next. A necklace symbolizes being here as part of a mission or a deliberate karma that you are balancing. You're trying to balance out some karma. That's a necklace. You're here as part of a mission or a deliberate karma you are balancing. Some people will say they got a shoe. Okay, a shoe indicates having a role in society that you are moving toward and taking on. That's a shoe. A role in society that you are moving toward and taking on. A ticket. Some people get a ticket, and that indicates an invitation to go much farther than you think you can. Ticket. Invitation to go much farther. A jewel. A jewel symbolizes certain qualities of consciousness. And some people will say, it was a diamond or it was a ruby or whatever. Look up the meaning and the influence of various jewels. Just Google it. What does a ruby symbolize? What does a diamond symbolize? What does a pearl symbolize? Just Google that kind of question. You'll get an insight into your gift. Next, we have a flower or a picture of a flower or a dried flower, and it represents the full flowering of your consciousness. That's big. The full flowering of your consciousness. That means you can do it all. Next, we have anything made of silver. A silver ball, a silver necklace, a silver bracelet, a silver bar. Silver symbolizes reaching an awakened state of consciousness while still in the third dimension. Okay, that's silver. Anything made of silver indicates that awakened state of consciousness. Anything made of gold symbolizes reaching a very evolved consciousness in the fourth dimension. In other words, you're capable of fourth dimensional consciousness, a total shift of how you see and respond and behave in the world. A diamond consciousness, diamond indicates reaching the pinnacle of consciousness, an enlightened state. There's so many things I could say there, but we'll save that for later. A key. Lots of people get a key. A key, whether it's an old-fashioned key or it's a key to a lockbox or the house key or a car key, doesn't matter. It's a key. A key symbolizes the ability to unlock the secrets of wisdom, power, and grace. Keys are wonderful. A feather indicates great personal strength. It's the kind of strength that a leader needs. Next, we have a bell. A bell represents the ability to awaken others to a higher consciousness. Either going to be typically a writer, a teacher, a speaker, a painter, an orator, something that awakens people to a higher consciousness. Counselor, consultant. An orb. Some people get an orb. That symbolizes the gift of language, the gift of teaching, and again, of oratory that inspires others. An orb is created by language. Okay? A pen. That should be obvious. A pen represents the gift of writing and the ability to create a new world. And I think the last one is a wand. Some people get a wand, like a magic wand. It symbolizes the gift of magic, of transformation, especially in the world of science. Okay? So those are the gifts that I hear most often. So now, you've gotten the gift, you've left, and you're going back. Okay. When leaving the structure, was the door handle the same or different? If it was the same, accepting and activating your gift will not change the way you handle the expansion of consciousness. If it was different, then accepting and activating your gift will change the way you handle the expansion of consciousness. It'll change your trajectory a little bit. When you got to the water on the way back and had to get to the other side, was the water the same and did you get over it the same way or not? If it was the same, the water looked the same, this journey, imagery, has not yet changed the way you handle emotions. Okay? I'll say something about that in a minute. If it was different, you got to the water and the water was different, that means that the journey into the forest has already changed the way you handle emotions. When you got to the fence on your way back and you had to get to the other side, did the fence look the same or different? So if it was the same, then this journey, this guided imagery journey, has not yet changed the way you handle obstacles and challenges. And if it was different, the journey into the forest has already changed the way you handle obstacles and challenges. So what did you have on your feet when you got back to the field? Was it the same or different? See the list above if it was different. But if it was the same, then this journey has not yet affected your readiness, your stance, or your attitude toward moving ahead with your development. But if what you had on your feet was different, then this journey into the forest has already affected your readiness, your stance, and your attitude toward moving ahead with development. What did the examination of the gift reveal to you, and what did you think about it? If you described what you saw, felt, and understood about the gift, that information is for you. Okay? Were you surprised? Were you disappointed? Were you excited? Unexpected? Uncertain of what it meant? If that's the case, go back and listen to the symbols that have to do with the I was going to say the key, the gift. Okay, whatever that gift is your key to your future consciousness. So why did we do this exercise? Okay, so this entire journey, let me repeat for the third time, is a journey into the self for you to learn your approach to the journey into consciousness. That fence, that water, that structure, they show you, what's in the way? How are you going to handle your emotions around this whole thing? What kind of lifestyle do you really need, or do you think you need, etc.? It shows you how you will handle obstacles in the evolution of your consciousness. It shows you how you'll handle the emotional challenges, and it shows you the structure of life most suited to your evolved self. It also reveals your initial key gift, and everybody's got a handful of gifts. This is just the first one. Okay, so now let me say something about symbolism that I want you to ponder. All symbols stand for inner realities, okay? The symbols you surround yourself with, everything around you, are representations of the way that you are using energy. Energy and consciousness are the two sides of one coin. Energy is the motion of consciousness. Consciousness is the feeling aspect of that motion. How does it feel? Is it feeling pleasurable or painful? There's only two things. Okay? Who decides the meaning of that feeling? You do. Who decides the meaning of the symbols? I do, when I set them out. If you were to go back and do this exercise again tomorrow, take the little journey, get over the fence, look at the water, get over the water, see the structure. What's the first thing everybody does the second time they do this imagery walk into the forest? They start fiddling with the images. That is natural. And that's what you want. You have assigned all of the meanings. We've assigned all the meanings. I actually set the meaning when I create the guided imagery. So let me just say, when you do guided imagery with somebody, you better be sure you trust them. They know what they're doing. Okay? So when you use, when I use a certain word, fence, you see the fence according to what I have defined that to mean when you're in a guided imagery session. Now, if you're not in guided imagery, the fence is going to be a fence, just an ordinary fence out there in the world. But in a guided imagery session, that is different. So, be aware that this is an introduction to the language of energy. All these symbols represent what we do with our consciousness and our energy. We make all this stuff. We make pencils. We make jars full of water. We make paper. We make microphones and computers. We have all these things. They all are made of energy, and they all have a particular meaning and purpose. We assign those meanings ourselves when, let me say it this way, you will assign the meaning, an updated meaning that you wanted to have when you become a mature and awakened consciousness. The meaning of all these things typically is unexamined until you begin to study consciousness. All of the meanings are assigned by other people. The thing that I want you to understand is that you have to begin assigning your own meaning to things. And that's when I said, if we were to do this a second time, you would immediately begin to fiddle and tweak the things that you see. You might not like what you did before. That's just the nature of the beast. So you change it and you see what that means. And maybe you change it again. And maybe you finally say, well, what kind of fence? So, what kind of fence has good meaning? That's how you learn. That's how you evolve. So when you begin to watch things happening in the world, other people are like, oh my goodness, that's terrible. For the awakened consciousness, they're looking at, look at what that means. What does that tell us? And right now, we've had quite a set of lessons in the last 4 or 5 years about different things not meaning what we thought they meant. So, okay. So remember, all symbols stand for inner realities. And let me close with one other thing that I think is really, really important. When you go through, notice, let me use this. When I said, okay, leaving the structure, was the door handle the same or was it different? And if it was the same, then you're accepting and activating your gift will not change the way you handle the expansion of consciousness. You'll handle it. And you're pretty much clear about how you're going to do that. But if it was different, that means that this exercise has already begun changing you. Same with the water. If the water was different, then this journey into the forest has already changed the way you handle emotions. Same with the fence on the way back. This journey into the forest has already changed the way you handle obstacles and challenges. Why is that so? What do you think that's about? How could this journey, guided imagery journey, make that much difference so quickly? It's because guided imagery doesn't just represent an experience, it contains the experience. So when you walk into that forest and you get over the fence, you see what's on your feet before you even start. You look at the water and then get across the water, you see a structure. Those things are happening in your imagination, which is the imaginal realm. And that is key. Consciousness does not differentiate between what is imagined and what is real. Let me say that again. Consciousness does not differentiate between what's imagined and what's real. So when we go on a journey into yourself, that is a real journey into yourself. And you are seeing your real self, which leads to becoming realized, capital R, realized. You begin to see, you begin to know that you know. And guided imagery is one of the most powerful tools and one of the, I'm going to say, the fastest and most pain-free way to learn about how you are, how you really are internally. I say a word, you supply the description. You're describing how you see that thing. And then you look at that and go, oh, you see how you are. It's typically going to be beautiful. If there's a spot in there that needs some work, well, you do the work. We'll learn how to do the work later. But that is probably enough for guided imagery for today. You might be eyeballs rolling over here from so much information. But come back and listen to the guided imagery. Do it as many times as you want. See what changes. Okay? Thank you for listening. Take care.